Hello, all. Evan here. Welcome back. And we're talking about movies. It's a movie night here on Comics. You could have guessed from the thumbnail, right? I finally saw Birds of Prey, the Batman spin off film starring Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn and the other Birds of Prey characters in there. We got Huntress, aka the Crossbow Killer. I like that running joke. We got Dinah Lance, aka Black Canary. We got Batgirl, kinda, Cassandra Cain, and we've got Detective Renee Montoya. So that's the complete, the main cast for Birds of Prey, all up against that villain. The great Ewan McGregor as Black Mask. What was his name? Roman Sionis, and who I thought really stole the show. If you saw the movie, you probably agree with me, I would think. Who is it? Chris Messina as Mr. Zaz. Mr. Zaz? Zaz the serial killer. I thought he did an incredible job, very appropriately creepy in that role. So yeah, if you couldn't guess, I enjoyed it. I really liked this movie. I feel like there was a failure of the marketing for this film. I just don't feel like it was marketed as well as it could have been. The ads were lacking. The music video tie-ins that I just watched yesterday for the first time, but I was thinking like these are not selling the movie as effectively as they could. The movie itself is a lot better than I was led to believe by all the advertisements. Although I think, to be fair, this movie was fairly well reviewed. I'm not sure what the fan reaction was like on Rotten Tomatoes, but was it certified fresh though? It was pretty good though. I don't think that people hated this movie, but for whatever reason, I was just thinking this is going to be average. So that enters into the equation too, right? Like I went in with lowered expectations, and this movie exceeded those low expectations. Other things you might, or I might say it's a little similar to. I mean, it's definitely a female led action movie. So there are some comparisons to be made between this and, say, the Charlie's Angels series, especially the older, the McGee directed Charlie's Angels films with Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Drew Barrymore. I think there's some similarities there. And I think even in a interview with BBC, it might have been BBC Australia though, but BBC definitely, Margot Robbie was talking about in interviews for this film that she was inspired by the Charlie's Angels films and she loved those movies growing up, which makes two of us. I also loved those movies growing up. I still like them today. I got the 4K for the 2000 Charlie's Angels. That was a great film. Still great. Watched it in the last year. Still very great. Looks like we got some people joining us already. Caleb and Mighty both in the chat. Hello, guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in. Caleb's asking, what did I think of Birds of Prey? Talking about that now. Overall, I liked it. And I think Caleb and other people, I think there were people in the chat in previous streams who were telling me I had to go see it. So I took people's advice. I went to see it and I liked it. I'm going to talk in more detail as we go on about some of the things I really enjoyed about it. And I'm going to nitpick a little bit too. I'm going to complain about things that I would have changed. So we'll get to that. But before we do, I'm going to check, see what's going on. Mighty's like, what's up, buddy? What's up? Good to see you. You haven't seen the movie yet. Well, I'm joining the chorus of people who say it's worth watching. Check it out. I'm not sure how much longer it'll be in theaters, but I was pleasantly surprised that after, 4 or 5 weeks, it's still there, and coronavirus hasn't shut down all the movie theaters. So it was still possible for my beautiful wife and I, Alana, to go see it. And it was this was just, I think we went Thursday afternoon or Thursday evening, and it was not like packed. I mean, it was a smaller theater too, but a lot of the seats were filled. A lot of people were still going out to see this movie. It's not breaking millions daily at the box office anymore, but there's still a crowd, at least when we went to see it. And again, I recommend it. I liked it. Overall, we both give it a thumbs up. Alana's not here to say that, but trust me when I say she's also gave it a thumbs up. Caleb's asking, Caleb's saying fans are mostly divided on Birds of Prey. Some think it's amazing, some think it sucked, some think it's okay, and some idiots think it's anti-male propaganda. And you know what? To be fair, I had heard some of that. I had heard some of these complaints about it being anti-male, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I agree. I'm not going to go out and just call everyone an idiot who thinks that, but I will say I didn't see much evidence of it being anti-male propaganda, unless you really want to split hairs and say there is some violence against men. Because Harley Quinn has those action scenes where she's beating up a bunch of thugs, but that happens in all these comic book movies. And frankly, that is, I'll use that as a segue to go into one of the things that I really, really liked about Birds of Prey was the action. And, this is just, maybe I should expect at this point, like I go into a DC movie and the action, whoever's in charge of the fight choreography, I don't even know if it's like the same crew or the same people each time for, say, like this and Justice League and Batman versus Superman and Shazam. But they've all got, great fight choreography. And in this, I kind of regret, again, because I said we saw it in a smaller theater, I kind of regret not going opening week now and seeing it in like the big Dolby Cinema 4K presentation, because I'm sure, some of the fight scenes like where like they're in the prison, I think, and like the sprinkler system is running. So it's like the water's coming down. There's like some slow-mo bits in there, I think. And just, again, great fight stunts, fight choreography. But I'm sure it looked great in the movie theater, just any movie theater. But I'm sure it would have looked incredible in like 4K Dolby Cinema or like IMAX, one of those presentations would have been fine. And I'm now looking forward to picking up a copy of this on 4K disc when it comes out for home video format and watching it again. I think it'll hold up to repeated viewings. Look for that in the future when I review the movie, the home video release, and say, yep, still good, still great movie. So the action was superb. And even though I already mentioned I didn't really like the music videos, like I was just watching on YouTube after we came back from the movie the other day. I was just watching the YouTube videos, which is neat that they had like so many music tie-ins. I know there was like a track by Halsey, a track by Megan Thee Stallion, and some other artists that are slipping my mind right now. But they all had these music videos that were like using the imagery, the visuals from the film too. And it's nice to see that again, because you don't see that as much. You really don't see that a lot with the Marvel movies. Like I think... who was it? I want to say The Weeknd maybe did a track for Black Panther that had a video. And that was pretty cool. But overall, like Marvel doesn't have a lot of these sorts of music video tie-ins. And even DC, not really usually as much. Like the last big example I remember where it was like, more of a musical tie-in was when they had, who is it? Pharrell Williams and, darn it, I'm forgetting the other guy's name, but those two guys and who is it? The female vocalist, darn it, Alicia Keys, when they did all the Amazing Spider-Man 2 music. That was pretty cool, but it's nice to see that. And again, I really like the soundtrack here in Birds of Prey. It's a good mix of old stuff. Like, you could have predicted Barracuda, the needle's going to drop on that. And it does. There is the Barracuda shows up in this film, as well as Black Betty and some other old classic tracks. So it's similar to Suicide Squad in that sense. Like if you remember Suicide Squad from 2016, it had a ton of like classic musical cues, and I think they maybe went overboard there. But in Birds of Prey, I think it's better. I think it's a better sampling of musical tracks than Suicide Squad. And it made me kind of want to pick up, I so rarely buy a CD soundtrack album, but I was tempted. I almost went on to Amazon and just like ordered the CD. But unfortunately, I checked the track listing and it's not everything that appears in the movie. Like all the musical cues in the film is not all the stuff that's on the CD. So there's some stuff missing, like again, the Barracuda track and Black Betty. But the new stuff, the Halsey stuff, Megan Thee Stallion, the track Sway, I forget who the artists are, but that's all on there. And it's good stuff. It's really entertaining and really used well in the film. So that's another point for Birds of Prey. Another great thing about that movie. What else I like about it? The casting, I think overall, I'll say good. But kind of a mixed bag, honestly, in terms of casting, because it's not perfect across the board. I think I already said that I think the person who steals the show is I believe the actor's name is Chris Messina as Zaz, the serial killer, who's just like really appropriately threatening and actually comes across way more threatening than the main bad guy, who is Ewan McGregor, who's doing a great job, but you don't really, or at least I wasn't watching him and thinking like, oh, this guy's terrifying. He does have one scene that I'll talk about that is a little more terrifying than usual, and he does have some threatening qualities to him as a character, but Ewan McGregor is kind of a funny, entertaining guy, so you're not really as scared of him or as threatened by him, by the character, as I think you would be by Zaz. So Zaz is overall the best. Ewan McGregor also good. And like I said, there was that scene he had where he was more threatening, where it's like it kind of comes out of left field, but like he runs a club, right? Black Mask runs a club, and there's a scene where he's upset at something Harley has done, so he's taking it out on his customers, and he starts threatening this one female customer, and he makes her get up on the table and start dancing and like tells someone else, you have to cut her dress off, and it's like really creepy, threatening stuff, but like a great scene, like just to show how much of a villain he is. But besides that, he's really more, it seems like he's more, even though, he's killing people and, he's a gang boss, you kind of like him. You almost kind of root for him because it's Ewan McGregor. I mean, he's just, the actor is so charming that you kind of want him to win at certain points because it's Ewan McGregor. So the villains are great. In terms of the Birds of Prey, there's some great casting choices there. I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead as the Huntress, or they've actually got this running joke of everyone calls her the Crossbow Killer because she doesn't really leave like a calling card. Like we don't know. We don't know that her name is the Huntress. Like she doesn't advertise it very well. So it's just, I'm laughing just thinking about it again. So she's great because it's like everyone thinks she's the Crossbow Killer, and then she freaks out. She becomes a bit of a spaz. She's like, no, I'm the Huntress. I'm not the Crossbow Killer. But she's great with this performance, and it's, they give her levels too. It's not just that one note, just the comedic aspect, but it's, if you know anything about Helena Bertinelli's backstory in the comics, the character of the Huntress, like her whole family is like this crime syndicate family that gets gunned down. And, I'll say this, at least going into it, it's an R-rated movie. So when they had these sort of like incredibly violent scenes or like these really creepy scenes, like I had described before with Black Mask in the club, it's like you're not assuming like, oh, there's going to be a bunch of kids who are seeing this. Because again, it's an R-rated film. But this is another thing that's like kind of consistent in the DC movies. They tend to be, even if they're only PG-13, they tend to be more darker than the Marvel films. And like Shazam is a perfect example of that because it's like it seems like it would be mostly a kid's movie. Like Captain Marvel's a bit of a, he's always appealed more to younger comics readers, I think. But they have that boardroom scene in Shazam where like the demons like just are chomping on people's heads in the boardroom. And it's like, it's a little darker than you would expect. And like even the opening scene in Shazam where, Savannah's father and brother, I think, get killed in the car accident. Really dark stuff. But that's just consistent. It's par for the course for DC. But they turn it up a notch here because this is, again, it's an R-rated film. And I would not say the R rating is wasted. The language is used. There's, again, definitely some extreme violence, adult content. But, it's like if you think R-rated means there's going to be nudity, not so much of that. But I wasn't expecting that going into it. And I would be shocked, honestly, if there was any Marvel or DC movie where they brought in any amount of nudity into it. Well, that reminds me, DC, like the comic book, the publisher got into a little bit of trouble for that a year or so ago because they had that Batman, I think it was called Batman the Damned comic, and it had, full frontal Batman in that issue. And they actually, they recalled it after it was released, and like, actually, could we get that back? We're recalling the issue, so it became like an instant collector's item. But yeah, back to Birds of Prey. Casting of the Birds of Prey, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as the Huntress was great. Margot Robbie, on the whole, more good than bad. Every once in a while, I find the accent she's doing, which is, classic Harley Quinn, but Margot Robbie's delivery, just her dialect, her Harley dialect, sometimes is good. Sometimes I'm like, it's not bad, but distracting. Like, it takes me out of the movie. But I think that, again, sometimes it's good. So I think it just depends on like what takes you want to use. And I think have higher hopes for the next Suicide Squad film that James Gunn is directing. Like, I think he'll be able to get, I'm just guessing, but I think probably a more consistent performance from her for this character. Because I think she's good at the character, but, I think that it's helped by having, someone, the director there to help guarantee that the performance is going to be consistent throughout the film. And again, it's just mostly the accent throws me off here. So also, I'm checking in on the chat again. Mighty's also saying you're hoping that Birds of Prey the movie is better than the old CW series, which I remember, and I had every intention. I forget if this was something that was ever actually, did they air it, or was it just like it got canceled after like a couple of episodes, or maybe just the pilot was aired? Because I watched one or two of them, but I can't remember, like, did I download a copy and watch it? And this is, again, like back in 2003 or 4? Like back during the Smallville days. But I remember it being like, I remember at the time thinking not so bad. And then like watching clips on YouTube within the last year or two after, these characters got more of a media push and thinking like, wow, this is very bad. So probably not one I will, again, I never watched it in full, and probably not one that I will go back to at this point and rewatch. But yeah, that Birds of Prey CW series, what a mess. And also, Mighty saying, Shazam should have got an Oscar. I laughed throughout the whole Shazam movie. I did too. It was a lot of fun. I like the, he does the Eye of the Tiger theme. He's doing lightning from my hands. That scene was great. That's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of funny Shazam scenes. But there's a lot of comedic potential from, the idea of casting, having a kid who becomes like a grown superhero. It's like Big plus superheroes. That's the elevator pitch. That's the log line. And they didn't really waste that humor. But the challenge, I would say, with a movie like that is like you cast a kid and kids grow. They get older. So you're on the clock if you want to make a sequel, because those kids, and there was more than one of them, right? And they were younger kids too in that foster family. It's like if you want to keep the same actors, you got to get going on that sequel, which is another thing that I wanted to talk about today, like all the movies that are getting delayed. And one of those, I think, there's a couple of DC movies that are getting delayed. Like I think, what's the next one up? Batman got a brief halt in production, the Robert Pattinson Batman. Shazam 2 may be pushed back. And I'll talk more about the delayed movies in a bit, but I just want to mention that now. As like, again, you're on the clock for these kid actors. But even if they're not kids, it's like, how long, let's say that like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is basically as long as you can go. Like that's as long as a single actor can play a character. And he did it for, we'll just round up. We'll say it was like 15 years he was playing Wolverine. Well, at this point, like some of these DC characters, like Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, best case scenario for her, let's say we're almost a third of the way through the amount of time she could play Harley Quinn, like 15 years or so at the most, right? I mean, maybe she'll go for longer, but it would be an extreme, an extreme case of that. So if they made basically 2 movies in a 5-year period, this and Suicide Squad, then we've got maybe, let's just assume consistency there. We've got Suicide Squad 2, and that might be it for her, but then we might get a couple more, but like maybe 5 or 6 movies with her as Harley Quinn at the most. And it's like, I think she's the breakout character of the universe, of the film universe. So really, like, we got to get going, Warner Brothers. We got to do some more of these. Not that, again, I want to rush things into production and then just have an average movie. Because I might say, something that could have used a little more work here. I don't think this was a bad script for Birds of Prey. I actually think it was fairly tight. Everything's consistent, like characterization of all the characters. Again, consistent throughout the film. plot makes sense. I heard that there were reshoots or like some changes in the plot in terms of what was on the diamond that was stolen from Roman and that he was trying to get back. I think there was a different plot point there, but that was just rumors. I'm not sure anything was ever confirmed about changes in the plot. But even if there were changes, I would say it made sense. There was some consistency there, but I think it could have been. It's like, if I was being generous, I might say 4 stars out of 5. Although it still might be a little bit lower to me because I think of a 4-star movie personally as a movie that I would recommend to everybody. You have to see it at least once. And a 5-star movie is a movie that everybody, or that I feel like there's really no expiration date. You can just keep watching it. It's that good again and again. So like 5-star for me is like Starship Troopers, Back to the Future, Gattaca I would throw up there. But 4-star movies, you got to watch it at least once. Everyone's got to see it. And that might even be like more, I'll out myself as a plebeian now, as opposed to being a patrician of film, because I might say, to me, the Godfather series is really just more of a 4-star film series, because it's like, you got to see it. It's very important. They're great. But do I want to watch it again and again? I don't know. But that's just my personal preference for 4-star versus 5-star. So I might say with Birds of Prey, pretty good, but would I say 4-star? Everyone should see it. Maybe 3.5-star. Like, it's worth watching. I don't think you'll get bored. But I don't know if I'd recommend it, say, to my mom, for example. I don't know if I would say, Mom, you got to rush out and see Birds of Prey. She might be bothered by some of it. So, yeah, I don't think of it as like having everyone being in the audience for they will enjoy this. But script maybe pretty good. Could have used some work. I do like some of the jokes in here. Some of the callbacks to, say, Suicide Squad, when she pulls like her old shirt out of storage, the Daddy's Little Monster shirt. But even when something like that happens, it reminds me, darn it, I liked that costume more. And I think, it's like, again, in the marketing materials and the advertisements for Birds of Prey, like one of the things that really was like, I don't know so much about how good this movie's going to be, is like the roller skate outfit with the overalls and the different haircut. I was thinking like, I don't think that this is an improvement on what we had before. Again, I think that last costume from Suicide Squad was iconic. And if they were going to change it, I say change it movie to movie, but I think it should be better. And I'm not sure that this was better. But I did like, the overalls not so much, but I like the shirt, the white t-shirt she wears in the fight scene in the prison with the sprinklers that just says Harley Quinn all over it. I think that's a great costume. So you win some, you lose some. I think they should have emphasized that one more in the advertisements versus the roller skates. Now, again, I've talked before about not being necessarily a purist when it comes to comic book adaptations. Like, we don't have to keep everything exactly the same as the comic books. But some of the characters that got changed in Birds of Prey, the movie, I think, why not just use new character names? Like, if you're going to include Cassandra Cain, who most people know is like this silent ninja Batgirl, if you're going to include that character, you should make it more like, I think, the comic book version of that character. But, they had this pickpocket character, Cassandra Cain, in the movie, who's not a bad character and makes sense for the plot, but it's just not Batgirl. So again, that's kind of distracting at times if you're a comic book fan of like, that's not Batgirl. And Renee Montoya, I think probably pretty good, although I think in the comics, I don't think she's as stepped on as much as she is in the movie. Like, it really does seem like she's just sort of a punished character in the GCPD. And in the comics, I'm not sure that's the case. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know if that plot point came up in comics of like, her boss, the captain, being a jerk who's always passing her over for promotion. Again, I could be wrong about that, but I think that is a bit of a change from the comics. And then some of the other characters, again, I already mentioned Huntress, pretty consistent to the comic book appearance. And Black Canary, I would say, to a degree, there is some similarity to the comic book version of Black Canary. I don't think they changed anything too radically there. And I like this approach to Black Canary, although, weird movie reference. I don't know if anyone's ever seen this before. The Carl Weathers action film Action Jackson. There is the female lounge or jazz singer in that who was kind of, the being manipulated by the club-owning villain in Action Jackson. Reminded me a lot, to an extent, of the Black Canary character in Birds of Prey, minus the screaming superpower, which I don't know. The screaming superpower in Black Canary, it's a little out of place because no one else has superpowers in the film, but it's like a Batman comic book DC movie, so it's not like it's so wildly out of place. But so I don't know where I stand on it. Like, I don't know if I would say like this is a bad thing or a good thing. Like, do we even need it? She really only uses it like 1 or 2 times in the film. This superpower of being able to, well, you know what it is, being able to basically scream and shatter glass or, knock over villains with her voice. It's a cool superpower, but I think the movie could have gotten away with not including it at all. Not that, again, I'm split because I'm not saying we need to have it be more realistic. But something that I think a Batman film does need more of is, even if it's a spin-off film, I got to be honest, you need more Batman. Batman does not show up. There's no cameo either by the Robert Pattinson Batman or the Ben Affleck Batman. And, for a movie set in Gotham City that's very much about, Gotham City and all the scum and villainy that lives in Gotham, it's just strange to me not to have Batman there even for a cameo, even from like, maybe you just see him from behind so you don't even need the same actor, or like what they did in Shazam where they have Superman from the neck down so they don't even need to cast Henry Cavill. It's just a weird sort of omission to me. And also another weird omission, you know who I'm going to say. It's strange not to have Joker in here. I know it's a Harley Quinn centric movie. It's her movie, but to not have, even a scene from Jared Leto's Joker, I think it's a loss. He wasn't my favorite version of the Joker, but I did not hate that character. And I think, again, for consistency from Suicide Squad to here, especially since like it is a breakup movie, I think that there should be at least a scene with that character to help tie it together a little bit better. Also, in terms of the breakup, I think a funny thing, maybe to me the least realistic part of the movie. It's just, I have a question. It's like, how, as like a very attractive blonde woman, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, as Harleen Quinzel, how absolutely awful of a character or a person or a villain do you have to be for your breakup to be like the okay symbol for everyone in the city to try to kill you? Like, that's the sort of the inciting incident in the film, is that Harley Quinn brings it on herself. She announces that she's broken up with the Joker. And now it's like, normally that sort of thing happens. Like, even the most broken, damaged people, like if they're attractive and they break up, there's a line at the door. There's other people trying to date them after that. But in Harley Quinn's case, not so much. It's a line at the door of people trying to murder her. So you might say that's like an interesting twist on the trope of how breakups would usually go in a situation like this. But it was, again, to me as like an audience member, a little bit distracting, like thinking like no one. It would make more sense to me for like all the villains, like the Riddler or Killer Croc or, I don't know, all the Batman Drogues gallery, not to be trying to murder Harley Quinn, not to be trying to murder her, but to be trying to like ask her out. That's what would make more sense to me. But, I get that she's like, especially for Black Mask, she's an awful customer. He hates that she comes in and basically just ruins the club every night. And it's like, she was under Joker's protection. And now that that's gone, he's like, okay, good. There's a price on her head. Let's kill her. Let's kill Harley Quinn. He says it using a lot more colorful language, though, of course. All right, checking in on the chat again. Mighty's talking about giving me a compliment on my art, which I always appreciate. Of course, I'm drawing. I mean, I don't know if this is an exact resemblance here, but the Margot Robbie version of Harley Quinn, say, contrasted with this other version, not so much Margot Robbie. But I may come back and work on this in a couple minutes. But yeah, this one, a little bit more obviously the Margot Robbie version of the character. I think. I hope so. And let's see. Also, Mighty saying one of your favorite five-star films, Beetlejuice. You know what? I think I agree with that. I think I would also say 5-star for me. Again, just going by the metric of, I would never say no to watching Beetlejuice. It's endlessly entertaining every single time. It never loses anything. And that performance from Michael Keaton is, well, it's 5 stars in and of itself. So that's a great choice. Sad that we never got the sequel to that. Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. And also, Mighty's, he's checking out on the chat. He's got to go. I appreciate you dropping in to watch for a bit, and I will see you next time. See you on the flip side, as they say. But, all right, now that I'm caught up with the chat, back to talking about the film a bit. I've got even more to say, and then I swear I'm going to move into discussion of all the movie delays, which, frankly, it's just really upset me. I'm just bothered by all the movies that are getting pushed back. It's like, what am I going to do with my life? No. But in terms of Birds of Prey, let's see. Marketing failed it. Like the acting. Some of the plot points left me a little cold, but some of them were good. Let's see. It uses the R rating well. And last thing I want to say, I think this is an important point to make. It's very on brand for Batman. I'd never once thought that I was watching a glib facsimile or a pale imitation. It was definitely like what I would expect. It was very reminiscent of all my memories of reading, like, say, 90s Batman comics. It was seemingly continuity heavy and character rich, and Gotham itself also seemed like a character. And I mean that in a good way. It was all good things in terms of being on brand for Batman. So I understand now more so, like, all the creators, all the Batman writers and artists that have been on Twitter going to bat for this movie, trying to get the word out there, trying to get people to go see it. I get that now. It is a good movie. It's more than good. I'll say 3.5 stars. And I would recommend it to most people, but especially, if you're a fan of Batman, of the Batman universe, this is a movie for you. Although keeping in mind that there is no appearance by Batman, there's also no appearance by the Joker, which is a little bit distracting at times. But there's worse things. There's worse problems. Such as, and this is what I'm going to talk about for the remainder of the live stream, that I've reviewed Birds of Prey. Although, if you join in, you got any thoughts on the movie, let me know in the chat. What were your favorite or least favorite parts? Looks like Kyle's joined in, Thrilla Art, saying, "What's up, Evan? Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for joining the chat." I should point out now, I'm not sure how noticeable this is for everyone watching, but I changed the latency mode on my stream from low latency to just normal because I think it was disrupting. I'm not sure this is really a trial and error thing, but I think it was disrupting the sync between my audio and my video. So there may be a bit of a delay between comments in the chat and my response to them because I switched from low to normal latency. But, you got to do what you got to do to, fix those technical problems. So hopefully that works. But like I was saying, if you had any thoughts on Birds of Prey, if you've seen it, or if you've seen it and you thought things were good or bad, let me know about it. But like I said, I am going to talk a bit now about all these movie delays, which really for most of them, I could survive. I could get by until these movies eventually come out, with a couple of exceptions. Actually, I got the whole list right here. Let's just go through the list first of all. So here's all the movies that they said these were going to get released. And while, I'm talking about that, I'm going to start inking this skirt for this other Harley Quinn illustration. They said, okay, Bond, No Time to Die is getting delayed until November. That one's fine. I can wait for Bond. I'm not the world's biggest James Bond fan. When it's out, I'll go see it. It doesn't break my heart that I have to wait a couple more months. Let's see. New Mutants. This one breaks my heart. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. I really thought we were going to get it this time. This has been delayed 2+ years at this point? So what's another 6 months to a year? Let's just push it back to 2021. Why don't we? No, I am starting to think that this movie is just beyond jinxed and we are never going to see it. So that's unfortunate. I am really a little bit heartbroken about that one. I really want to see New Mutants. A Quiet Place Part 2. I never saw the first one, but it's got delayed, so that's kind of a bummer for fans of that franchise. But I did not see it. I'm not sure if it's worth watching. I haven't heard too much from people I know either way. So it doesn't bother me that much. Peter Rabbit 2, surprise, I actually liked that first one. That first Peter Rabbit movie. A surprise Netflix watch that I enjoyed. So I was kind of looking forward to part 2, although I don't know what else are you really going to do with it after part 1. But that's kind of a bummer. Another film with Margot Robbie, I think. I think she plays one of the voices of the rabbits. But I would like to see it. Movies in production right now, Batman and the new Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, I think it both had minor halts in production. But we'll see if that makes them move from the planned release dates of summer next year. My guess is probably not, but we'll see. The Little Mermaid, the new Disney live-action version of The Little Mermaid, was about to go into production. And now, not so much. Indefinitely delayed. We'll see, because of coronavirus. Mission Impossible 7 was filming in Italy. Boom. Unfortunately, you know what that means? That is sort of ground zero for terrible pandemic effects at this point. So, halt in production there. That's kind of sad. I'm not sure if that'll really move, again, the release date for that one. Let's hope not. I always enjoy the Mission Impossible movies when they come out. But we'll see. There's also another live-action Disney one, Peter Pan and Wendy, was about to go into production, or maybe has already started and has also been delayed. We'll see what happens there. Another live-action Disney that was in, very close to release. I think we were like a week or two away from release. That's Mulan. I was thinking that Mulan was going to bomb at the box office. My guess was that there was not going to be a lot of success there. So I don't know if it's going to be better delaying it. I just don't know if the appeal for that movie is there still. But, again, I could be proven wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. So Mulan got pushed back. Let's see. This one's kind of sad. I didn't even hear about it until I heard that it got pushed or production was delayed. And that is a new sequel to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with Rick Moranis. So that's kind of sad because I would like to see him in another Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie. That would be fun. Kyle's saying in the chat that Quiet Place is good, so I might check it out. I'm sure at this point it's streaming somewhere, so it should be pretty easy for me to find it to watch. But I might at this point, I might wait until there's verification or confirmation that the second one is out, just in case I love it. If I love the first one, I want to be able to watch the second one ASAP and not have to wait for it. Like all those poor fans of, for example, Game of Thrones who got really into it and will probably have to wait until Doomsday to get the release of the final book in that series. There's more stuff. There's an Elvis picture, a new Elvis movie that's going to come out that has been also indefinitely delayed in production. There's a movie with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, The Last Duel, directed by Ridley Scott. Unfortunately, that's also being delayed. And there is... Okay, that's all the ones, so for the most part, I'm okay with these, except for New Mutants breaks my heart. But the one that really, really gets my goat is Fast and Furious 9, which I found out about this because we already had our tickets for opening night for Fast and Furious 9. And we got an email from AMC this morning saying, sorry, you're getting a refund because the movie's been delayed a year. And it's like, so annoying. And I really wanted to see that, even if it meant risking catching the flu in May. I really thought we'd be through this by that point. But unfortunately, maybe not. And then also, too late to get delayed, Bloodshot just came out this weekend. I haven't seen it yet. I actually was this close to going to see it yesterday or today. But still have plans of going to see it. Although, last bit of news, and then I'm going to start wrapping things up for this stream. It was so, I don't know if funny is the right word, but it's a response to this flu situation. And that is that both AMC and Regal Theaters have announced that they're only selling theaters at 50% capacity for the foreseeable future. So I don't know, again, if it's assigned seating, that's maybe not a perfect setup because it's like they could sell half the theater and it's still just everyone clumped together in assigned seating, sitting next to each other, not practicing social distancing. But, it means that, even if I go to like a sold out Bloodshot screening tomorrow or the next day, it's really going to be like 50% sold out or 50% capacity. So that's, I mean, it's interesting. It's unique. I don't know. I'm curious to go to the movie theater now just to see what it's like. Although, again, I was there like 2 days ago. It was fine. And they just announced today we're only selling at 50%. Oh, well. Anyway, that's basically it. So, again, to summarize what we talked about today, Birds of Prey, good, and to me, surprisingly good. I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. Dare I say, just a hair shade of great, a hair shade of all-time great, but more than good, very, very good. And the action scenes were spectacular. The casting was half and half with some spectacular casting. The music, the soundtrack was awesome and well used in the film. And overall, very enjoyable. I recommend it. And, you know, you got to go see that because at this point, what else is coming out? That's it. That's it for new movies, everybody. Hollywood has been canceled. Nothing else is coming out except for maybe Black Widow. They have not announced that is moving, so that might still come out in May. We will see. So that is it for this time. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me. You know, if you like this video, if you enjoyed this live stream, please do me the small favor of smashing like on the video. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, I think you should. I think you should subscribe. Also, tap the bell for notifications. Always get you informed of whenever I go live, which usually is Wednesday morning for X-Men comic reviews and Saturday night for grab bag conversation of whatever's going on that week. Let's see, anything else I gotta say? Oh, also, if you're an artist yourself, keep practicing. The only way to get better is to keep drawing. Draw every day. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Mighty. Thanks, Caleb. Thanks for everyone that joined in. And I will see everyone next time. So until then, be good, everybody.